Today's rapid recap is for Monday, November the 24th, and Tuesday, November the 25th, Beyond the Gates. I'm going to combine them both because I'm kind of getting over this whole, or not getting over, I have this sinus thing going on, whatever. But I'm going to combine them both, especially since Tuesdays is really everybody's Thanksgiving dinner. So anyway, Monday. Danny goes to visit Anita and Nicole at the club, and they're talking, and she's telling them how their honeymoon went and how she decided not to do the Forrester contract. So, I mean, and they were shocked and happy. Bill was meeting Tomas at the club to talk to him about his progress in the firm and how he stepped up when Bill had the stroke. And then when they were looking for Chelsea, he says, "You're doing a good job. You're on track for becoming partner." He says, and Haley and I are going to be vacationing. They bought a home in St. Bart's, so they're going to spend some time there, a couple weeks, and he wants Tomas to take over for him again. And he tells them, "You are on track for becoming partner if you keep in the same direction." He says, "But I'm going to tell you one thing. After that unfortunate lawsuit, because of, he said the other partner's name, he goes, my future partners must be family oriented." And so Tomas looked at him like, "Wait, what? Look, you the one that divorced your wife and married the paralegal, right?" Bill says, "No, I know. Might be hypocritical or look hypocritical on my part." He says, "But it is my firm." He says, "And I'm going to tell you why. If you have family interest, or you don't have to have kids, but pretty much, yeah, be married or in a relationship so that you're not bringing the firm, so that the firm can't be held liable for things later." And I'm thinking, yeah, you do sound hypocritical because you married the paralegal from the firm. Okay. And if she decided to divorce you, she could try to take half the firm. Or she could be one, could have been a paralegal that says you coerced her. But anyway, Tomas says, "So are you trying to say you have?" He goes, "No, you don't have to be." He says, "But you need to be in a committed relationship." And so Tomas tells Bill, no, Bill tells Tomas, "Now I know there was some, you and Kat went through a little rough patch. How are you two doing?" And Tomas says, "No, no, we're back together, stronger than ever." He says, "Good, good." He says, "Now I want you to make sure that you bring Kat to other company dinners, company events, okay? We need to see more of that." And he goes, "Oh, okay." So anyway, Tomas goes out, the meeting's over. Bill's looking at Danny, and she's talking to Anita and Nicole. Couldn't get her eyes off of her pretty much. And Tomas leaves, so he goes over to their table. No, 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 he doesn't. Yes, he does. And he says, "Danny?" And she looked up at him. "Yes." He goes, "We need to talk about Winterfest, you know?" And he says hi to Anita and Nicole, and they're just like, and she goes, "What's there to talk about? You're the MC." And she goes, "You know what to do." And he says, "Oh, I just wanted to make sure that I hadn't been bumped by, young Andre." And she goes, "No, you're the MC. You always have been." And he goes, "Oh, okay." So she goes, it's something she tells Anita and Nicole that he called me during my honeymoon. But what? But she didn't say that while he was standing there. So he ends up walking away. But as he's at the table, Tomas goes out and he runs into Kat. And Kat's pissed because Ted came and asked her to have Thanksgiving dinner with him. And she looked at him and she smiled. She says, "You want to have Thanksgiving with me? Just me?" And he's smiling. She's smiling. And he goes, "Yes, Kat, I want to have Thanksgiving dinner with you." He goes, And Eva, I want to have Thanksgiving dinner with both my daughters. And she looks, that smile turn. Why would you want me sitting across the table with a knife in my hand and Eva be there? She said, because Kat, I have faith that you two will come together. And I think this would be a great day or event for us three to just sit down and have dinner. And she's like, oh no, that'll never happen. She goes, time and time again, you want to include her into something for me that should just be me. Where she's right and wrong, where Ted is wrong is trying to force them together. It's never going to work. You want to spend time on holidays with your daughters? Split the day. Split the day, Ted. You should have said, look, can we have Thanksgiving lunch or Thanksgiving? What? Offer an alternative to the both. One you have lunch with, the other you have dinner with. But you know with how volatile they are at this stage of the game, why would you think you could do that? Right? So she flat out turns him down. She's pissed. She wants to go to the country club to work out to get some anxiety out. So she runs into Nicole. Nicole had been in the lot. She left Danny and Anita because she needed to make a phone call. The hospital called. She just finished her phone call. She goes, oh, hey, Kat. She goes, I'm here to work out some frustration on a punching bag because I'm sick of Eva trying to infiltrate every part of my life. And Nicole says, what happened now? She goes, Dad asked me to have Thanksgiving dinner with him and Eva. And Nicole says, ooh, okay. And she says, I flat out no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And so she says some other things. And Nicole says, well, personally, it might be good for you. And she looked at her mother. She says, I mean, Kat, the situation's not going away. He is your father, too. And it might do you all some good on a day like Thanksgiving to just break some bread. And she goes, that will never happen. I could not have imagined you would ever say something like that to me. Our family should be together on Thanksgiving, right? And because of her and her mother, we're not. So she goes, no, I won't be doing that. And she walks away. She goes, let me get this punching bag. And Nicole was kind of like, oh, whatever. Nicole is interesting to me. She could shed that real quick. Yeah, whatever. She goes back to the table and Kat comes out from that punching bag real quick because Tomas finished his meeting with Bill and he goes, Kat, fancy meeting you here. She goes, try to take out some aggression on a punching bag, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, what happened? Eva happened. That's what happened. And she looked at him, but she realized, she goes, now I'm in a dilemma. My father, see, here's the thing, everybody. Kat is trying to be or pretend to be someone she's not to keep Tomas. That's not going to keep him, right? She actually lies to him to make herself look better when she can't keep that up, right? I understand now. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't feel Ted should have invited, like I said, both of them together at the same time to break bread. But she says, my dad wants me to have Thanksgiving dinner with him and Eva. Now, it would be hard for me But I am, she says, because I'm trying to really, to get along. And this is where the lie is. She ain't trying. She already told him flat out no. She goes, but the problem is my mother also wants me to have Thanksgiving dinner with her. So I'm caught between the two of them. Mm. Instead of being real and owning it, right? So she goes, he goes, well, I've got a solution. She says, what? He goes, come away with me for the weekend. And he told her some bed and breakfast or whatever. And he goes, we can have spend Thanksgiving together. You can let both of them know that you have plans. You're going to be with your boyfriend, and you and I can just enjoy ourselves all weekend. And she looked at him. She goes, really? You want to spend the weekend with me? Just me? And Tomas should have said, oh no, I forgot. I mean, and Eva too. I'm just joking. So she hugs him and she says, yes, let's do that. Let's do that. So that's what she's going to be doing. Now, Eva and Isaiah are steaming it up, Google eyeing it up and kissing and carrying on, you know. But they're not kissing right now. They're about to kiss, and Ted walks up and says, that's my daughter you with. And he looks, oh, sir. And she goes, yeah. She goes, Isaiah stands up and he goes, uh, Isaiah Hawthorne, sir. And he goes, Hawthorne, you're Jacob's younger brother, aren't you? And he goes, yes. He goes, I remember you from the wedding. Everybody, I guess there must have been it was a real knockdown drag out between Isaiah and Elon. And so Isaiah looked and he goes, that's my daughter you're about to kiss. And Eva looked at him and said, adult daughter? And so he says, and I would like to speak to my daughter. So Isaiah says, oh, yeah, okay, you know what? I can just go on and give me another drink. So he gets up and he leaves. And she goes, Ted? And he goes, look, she goes, overprotective much? And he goes, I'm your father. And that's what fathers do. And she looked at him and she kind of smiled because, wow, that's what dads do, right? And so he says, I have, want to know, can we have Thanksgiving dinner together? Now, full transparency, I invited Kat, and she just looked, and Eva just looked at him, said, really? And he goes, yeah. He said, but Kat declined. And he says, of course she did. Of course he lets her, he lets both of them badmouth each other. Seriously. And he needs to stop both of them from bad mouthing each other mm, to a certain point. They should both be feel free to say, you know what, I don't feel comfortable doing this, that, or the other. But just to let them have bashing sessions, I don't like that. Right? So anyway, she goes, I'm sorry, Ted, but Mama and I have a tradition that every Thanksgiving, we spend Thanksgiving just us, since her last husband died, right? So he goes, okay, I understand. So he leaves and Isaiah come back. And when he comes back, they're talking. And Jacob called and invited him to have dinner at the country club with Naomi, because he goes, come by the house, to mom misses you. And truth be told, dad does too. And Isaiah's like, nope, I don't want to ruin mom's dinner because we both know that that's what would happen. So then Jacob said, well, okay, you know what? Then how about having dinner with at least one family member? After mom and dad's, Naomi and I are going to the country club to have dinner with her side of the family. Come there. You won't be alone on Thanksgiving and you will enjoy yourself. So Isaiah said, you know what, I could do that. So he comes to the table, I mean, back to where Leva is. It's at that little place where they get smoothies and stuff like that. And they're talking, and so they agree to each, do their own Thanksgiving things and get together and compare how each other's evening went. And then maybe turn up the heat a little bit more, you know. So I think those two will be hitting the sheets by next week. So anyway, they're kissing. And let's see, Marcel. Jacob kind of got a little out of line at the precinct, saying Marcel doesn't really try to solve anything high profile. And he goes, and you're retiring soon. And Marcel said, don't push me out the door just yet. So Jacob is like, don't you think you want to retire on a high note? He says, and what's that supposed to be? Because Jacob had mentioned, Dad, we put forth evidence. But for some reason, the district attorney's office they tell us our evidence is not enough and they're shooting us down because Jacob was doing a report, Elon was doing a report that he had to submit to the mayor as to why arrests are down. And Marcel was saying, well, can't you tell him crime is down too? And Jacob said, we both know that's a lie. And they look at Jacob and he goes, it's the DA is shooting down the evidence we're giving him. So he goes, like the Leslie Thomas case. We know she did it. She ran Laura, whatever her name is, off the road. And we had excellent evidence. They wouldn't take that. They said it wasn't strong enough. But he told Marcel, he says, you know what, you think you'd want to go out on a high note, right? Leave this office on a high note. And Marcel got to thinking. So Marcel goes to Uptown and he sees Leslie having drinks, right? Having a martini or whatever she was drinking. And he goes over, says something about a pretty lady having a drink and, something about he could buy her one or whatever. And she looked at him. She goes, oh. And she says, I know you from somewhere. He says, I doubt it. She goes, no, I do. Give me a minute. He says, okay, if you remember, I'll buy you a martini. Another drink. And she goes, you're a cop. Yep. He said, that's right, Detective Marcel. And she says, mm-hmm. He says, so I owe you a drink. And they sit down. She goes, no, this is going to be interesting. He said, really? Not really. I'm off duty. I'm here to have a drink. And I wouldn't mind buying a pretty lady a drink. So she says something, and he ends up saying, no, he's married. Um, but the wife, something about the wife, he has to stay married. He's about to retire because now he's talking a little bit about himself. And she says a little bit about herself. He goes, I can't divorce my wife. And she says, why can't you divorce your wife? Because of Sheila. And she goes, Sheila? Oh, so you stepping out on your wife. You got somebody on the side. He goes, no, it ain't like that at all. Sheila's my boat, my pride and joy. And if I divorce my wife, she's going to probably try to take Sheila from me. And so Leslie says, your wife likes to sail? He goes, my wife can't stand being on the water. She gets very seasick. She would try to take Sheila, or in the divorce settlement, force me to sell it to pay her more money because she knows how much I love that boat. And so Leslie's like, well, you just need to step out with a pretty lady to make her jealous. And I'm thinking, how would that help? She goes, who knows? I just might want to be in a bathing suit, or she may have said bikini, sunbathing on Sheila's deck. And he looked at her. She goes, who knows? So they end up chit-chatting a bit more. She was saying she got her eye on a doctor friend, and that doctor's gonna be hers, and this, that, and the other. And she goes, "Oh, and by the way, got to cut this conversation short because that doctor just walked in." So she gets up and she goes over to Ted at the bar. And Ted says, "You do know who you sitting there with, right?" And she goes, "What's the matter, Teddy Weddy? You jealous?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm not jealous. I just want to make," he goes, "who you see is your business, not mine." He says, "I just want to make sure you know that's a cop." And she goes, "Yeah, I know." So he says, "Look, I understand that you and Eva," he goes, "I wanted to have Thanksgiving with Eva." And Leslie looks at him. He goes, "But I understand that you and Eva have dinner, Thanksgiving dinner together. So I want to know, can I join you two?" And Leslie almost hit the floor, and I almost hit the floor. Like, what? He goes, "I don't want to miss my first Thanksgiving with Eva, knowing she's my daughter." And Leslie says, "And you want to have it as a family?" "Of course, Ted." And he's just like, "Whatever, take, yeah, okay." So I thought, well, that's interesting. And she goes, "We're going to be at Orphe Jean's." And I thought, good, you're going to be at Orphe Jean's. So you're not coming to the country club with Eva and Leslie, right? So that worked out for them. Um, Ted and Leslie, yeah, they're going to be together. I think I said everything that I needed to mention. Yeah, that was it. That's what happened on Monday. Now, Tuesday was all about everybody's Thanksgiving dinners. We've got the Duprees at their table at the club. Top left, Anita, Vernon, Nicole, and Isaiah sitting next to Nicole, and Jacob and Naomi. So they have a good little dinner. Danny decided she was going to be at her place. She was going to make her and Andrea intimate dinner, right? And that intimate dinner consists of, let's see, did I not upload that picture? I don't think I uploaded. Danny was going to cook her own Thanksgiving. Andre comes out and he says, "Danny, wait, I don't think I didn't save that one, y'all, but it was funny. Danny was cooking and they had this Cascade box right there on the counter there. And I thought, product placement much, right? So she ends up telling him to load the dishwasher. And he's like, "Well, I gotta rinse these off." She goes, "Look, we got this." And she puts her hand on top of the Cascade. She says, "You don't have to pre-wash anything. Just put those dishes over there in there." And he goes, "In the dishwasher?" She goes, "Yeah, that machine." So, they're chit-chat talking, but throughout their little scenes, of course, she burns the turkey and the dinner just don't work out. And they end up showing them eating Chinese food and watching a movie, the game, right? So anyway, that was Danny and Andre. Bill, not Bill and Haley were at the club. I didn't feel like taking a picture of them. Haley then gets mad. She goes, "You brought me here, no, probably knowing they were going to be here." He goes, "Yeah, they're here every Thanksgiving. It's their family tradition." She goes, "You brought me here to your ex-wife's family tradition? Were you hoping they were going to ask us to pull up a chair?" He said, "No, I was not. And we make our own family traditions." He says, "Why should you have to slave over a stove and then do a whole massive cleanup, making a dinner for just two of us? We come here and have dinner in style. We can start our own family traditions." And she just looks, hmm. But she sees Isaiah walk in and he sits down at the table. She's like, "Ooh." And he goes, "I mean, if you're going to get this upset, Haley, we could go somewhere else." She goes, "We here now." So then Isaiah and then Nicole arrives, and then Jacob and Naomi after Nicole. And Naomi goes over to Bill and Haley's table and says, Happy Thanksgiving to, the two of them. And then she goes back to her table. And Madison and Chelsea were having dinner with Madison's mother, and Naomi was getting a text. And they're having a vegan dinner, and she was reading what they were eating and what it was in, and they were all like, "Woo!" But Chelsea's determined to bring Madison and her mother closer together. Good luck with that. Um, and Kat, of course, is with Tomas. So, and Martin and his family were having dinner there at their house, and they had June, a nice, touching little dinner, and they all said what they were thankful for. And June got emotional, and she was saying that this is what she always wanted and what she prayed for was that her two kids could have a life like this. She said, with parents like you two. And she goes, you could feel the love. And she was crying because they all went around the table saying what they were thankful for. And so Martin says, oh, no, look, June, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to cry. She goes, no. And then she tells him, she said, this makes me know that my sacrifice was worth it. I made the best choice for my children. She goes, that's why I'm so happy. And she told Samantha, and Samantha, I'm happy you let me sit right here in the middle between you and Tyrell. So it was a real cute little family moment. I really liked their family dinner. And Joey rented out Uptown. Uptown was closed for Thanksgiving. And so he just rented it out since it's not that he booked the whole place and so nobody could rent it. They're closed on Thanksgiving. I guess because they're a bar and they just let their employees be with their family. So he made a 4-course meal for Vanessa, and she was floored with it because Joey's an excellent cook. Uh, doesn't that remind you of Sonny Corinthos? Hmm. He's an excellent mob boss cook. So is Joey. So Vanessa was talking about how he should open a restaurant. And he goes, restaurants are high risk. You got to sink a lot of money into them and spend a lot of hours there. He goes, no way. And he goes, and a lot of them go under, so you could lose your shirt. And so she's saying, yeah, but you love risk. He goes, I love the risk I want to take. He goes, I don't need a restaurant. And so she goes, you're just afraid of branching out. He goes, no, I'm going to keep my shirt. And so she goes, well, somebody needs to know when they need to take their shirt off. So he takes her hand, like, because she was going to unbutton his button. He takes her hand off his shirt and he kisses it, like, not yet. We're here at Uptown. So then later it shows them dancing. And she goes, no one has ever put this much care and thought into making a Thanksgiving dinner so special for me. And he goes, and that's a crime. He said, oh, I plan on making every holiday memorable for you. Right. So they're dancing, slow dancing, and she's in his arms. And she goes, you surprise me, Joey Armstrong, or something about you're a special man. And so they're dancing, and they have their own little good thing going, right? So that pretty much was it, which is why I knew I could combine these 2 days because it was just showing everybody at their Thanksgiving dinners. But it was still, they were good ones. And then Vernon, Haley's like, good, we could go now because Bill kept his attention kept going to the table. And so Vernon stands up. I guess every year he makes this toast. So, and everybody in the lobby, I mean, in the rest sitting at the tables, the dining room can hear it. So they're all giving Vernon their attention because he is an ex-senator, right? Plus, their big grandfather's picture portrait is over where their table is. And it was a good one. Fast forwarded most of it because I didn't need it. But heartfelt. And they're getting ready to leave. And Bill says, no, no, no. Vernon's getting ready to make his toast, his annual toast. I'd love to hear it. I love his toast. So Bill is like, huh? And Haley. So Vernon is talking and he ends up talking about, being thankful and he's talking about this family, this, but then we also we need to give to others and lift up and he talked about forgiveness and forgiving others. And it was so funny watching Bill's face. He was just like taking it to heart and he was kind of shaking his head at some points. And at one point, one thing he said, Haley even went like, well, that was a good point, right? So, and then as Vernon is talking and went into voiceover, showing Danny and Andre having fun, Ted and Eva walk into Martin's because he says he was going to Martin's after dinner. He goes, Eva, he goes, I would like you to come to Martin's house after dinner, him and the family. And she goes, oh, Ted, I would love to. And Leslie goes, oh, Ted, you have to give my apologies to Martin. I can't make it this year. Ted looked over at her. Eva looked at her. She goes, after I leave here, I've got to go spend time with Peaches. And Ted still just looking at her like, I didn't invite you. But he didn't want to ruin the Thanksgiving. He didn't want to end the Thanksgiving dinner on a bad note. He just looked at her. He didn't say, I'll tell him. He just said, mm. She goes, so next year. So he gets up, I think, because Eva's looking at her. What do you think you're saying? That was funny. So then, as Vernon's voiceover is happening, it shows Ted and Eva walking in to the family. Tyrell's teaching June how to play chess. And so, nice little family scene there. And that's when it showed Joey and Vanessa dancing as Vernon's voiceover was happening. So that's it, everybody. Tomorrow should be the last episode of this week for Beyond the Gates. They're going to be, for Thanksgiving. So they'll be back on Monday. So I'll be back tomorrow with another daily recap of BTG Beyond the Gates.